Welcome, welcome everyone. How's everyone doing today? On behalf of Africatown Community Land Trust and our partners, we want to welcome you to the State of Africatown 2026. Thank y'all so much for being here. We want to also start to make sure we are grounded in the amazing space we are in. Please join me in welcoming Ebony Arunga to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Langston. We are gathered here inside the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute in the heart of the historically Black Central District. For more than 50 years, this building has been a home for Black arts and culture and social justice in Seattle. And by being here today, we are standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. The visionaries, organizers, artists, and community members who ensured this space would exist for us to be able to be here. Langston is a hub. It is a beacon, and it is the only building of its kind dedicated entirely to Black arts and culture here and in our region. Stories are spoken here, history is carried forward, and community gathers to shape the future of our city. Our namesake, Langston Hughes, first visited Seattle in 1932 at First AME Church, and later he came back and spoke at the University of Washington. He understood culture and civic life are inseparable, that the stories we tell and the policies we build and the futures we imagine are all intertwined. His presence here is part of the lineage that we carry forward. And this year, Langston is turning 10 years old, the nonprofit that stewards this building. For the past 10 years, our nonprofit organization had the honor of carrying the baton of stewardship for this building. We step into the work that began long before us, and we move it forward with care and intention. Stewardship here means sustaining artists in our creative economy, keeping rehearsal space accessible, hosting festivals like the Seattle Black Film Festival, which has been going on for 23 years, and the Seattle Black Nerd Festival, which launched last year and is going to be a future legacy, hopefully, right? You never know when you're at the beginning and the precipice of something like that, when you start to build something that you don't know how far into the future it can go. And so we are really honored to be able to dream up some of these things. It means strategizing for long-term and working with public and private partnerships so that this space continues to serve Black arts and culture for generations to come. This building is civic infrastructure. It is a site for community power building, economic activity, and democratic voice. We are shifting from momentum to permanence, and so we're going to be calling upon you over the next year to dream up what a future of ownership might look like for our community in this building. And so today really matters because the State of Africatown centers a thriving Black future in Seattle, and we are in alignment with that. And that future requires space, it requires vision, and it requires all of us. Thank you for being here this morning, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ebony. Now I would love to make sure that we are grounded as we need to be with our ancestral practice of libation. Please welcome to the stage Nacala Ayele.
Good morning. May I have permission from the elders to speak? Yes. Thank you. It is my honor and great joy to bring the ancestors in for us this morning. And for those who are not familiar with the ritual, it is something that's found all over the continent of Africa and throughout our diaspora. And it is a way to bring the ancestors in to bless the work that we're doing in our gathering. It is a way to ask them to be with us during that work. So the way I like to do it is I'll call on a slate of ancestors, and then I will pour water into the plant, and I will say Ashe. And because we are a collective and communal people, when I say Ashe, y'all say? Nah, not like that, though. When I say Ashe, y'all say? Ashe. That's right. That's right. So as we think about gathering for the purpose of repair and thriving of our people here in Seattle, in our Black community, I ask the ancestors to open our hearts to the possibilities that we may have some internal repair that we need to do with our relationship with ourselves. I also want them to open our hearts to the fact that we might have some repair that we need to do with other community members interpersonally. And I ask that they open our hearts to initiating those repair conversations and being open to forgiveness in those repair conversations. Okay. Go ahead and take a deep breath. Oh, one more thing. I ask that the ancestors make space for our healing, love, connection, harmony, abundance, joy, and thriving at levels that we could not imagine for ourselves. That was an important one to mention. All right. So now consider where we're standing right now in the building, in the land that this building sits upon. Imagine a time before uninvited intruders were here. Imagine all the trees that lined this whole entire place down to the water, and the indigenous people who were thriving and free, and when the land was free. Ashe. Now think about the continent of Africa as a free place before uninvited intruders, where the land and the people were free and we were thriving. Ashe? I like to call in the healers from that time. The folks who kept our bodies and our minds right. Ashe? The elders and the chiefs who held the protocols for accountability and repair. Ashe? To the artists and the visionaries who could see the things, the beautiful things that were not yet there. Ashe? I want to honor our African ancestors who were enslaved and those who evaded slavery or enslavement. Ashe? To those who didn't make it past the Middle Passage, those who did not survive, and to those who did survive the Middle Passage. Ashe? To those who made it to the shores but didn't survive enslavement, and those who made it to freedom. Ashe? I now like to call in the ancestors who were organizers in our movements for freedom, our civil rights, Black power, housing justice, and LGBTQIA plus movements, and more. Ashe? To our ancestors who kept the barbecue popping. Ashe? To our ancestors who repopularized some of our most precious cultural self-love practices, our dance, our drum, our afros, our dashikis, and all that fly stuff. Ashe? And to the ancestors, to our ancestors who embodied the blackest of Black joy. Ashe? Wait, I need it a little louder than that. Ashe? All right. So at this point in our ritual, I want y'all to think about your loved ones who have passed on, who would want to be with us today. And who do you need in this space to do what you need to do? You go ahead and call their names, and I will pour for you, all right? We'll start with Sarah Freeman and Dr. Mims. Ashe? Okay. Ashe. 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 Keep it coming. Ashe. Ashe. Yes. Ashe. Okay. Falasha Defar, Mr. Osandufar. Ashe. 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 More. Ashe. 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 Okay. Ashe. 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 Ashe.
Much love to Nacala for that amazing grounding. We're going to continue in our opening. Y'all, I'm excited to welcome to the stage Miss Josephine Howell.
I ask that you would stand to your feet. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with the steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. For we have come over a way that the tears have been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the bright gleams of a bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on our way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of this world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy true to our God, true to our native land. So let us march on till victory is won.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. I know everyone in here is feeling that. Incredible. What we like to do right now is we want to make sure that every year at the State of Africatown, there is a space to honor our elders. With that, I want to ask that the elders in the building, please make your way down if you're able. If not, please stand in place. We want to make sure that we are properly acknowledging you. For our elders who can, or you can raise your hand so we can make sure that our volunteers properly acknowledge you for our elders who are in the building. We have some right here in the front row. Thank you so much. I'm going to welcome to the stage right now our Bishop Tyson for our prosperity prayer. Thank you so much.
Can we bow our heads? If you would like to stand, please feel free. If you're comfortable sitting, all is well. With every head bowed and with every eye closed, gracious and sovereign God, we stand on sacred soil today. And on this sacred soil, God, we know it's watered with tears, tilted by struggle, and yet still pregnant with promise and possibilities. You are the God who sees harm, and you are the God who brings repair. You are the restorer of broken places and spaces, and the rebuilder of ruined cities like Seattle. Father, we acknowledge the harm, displacement, redlining, injustice, stolen opportunities, and a system that tried to uproot a people from their land. But we declare and we decree that what was harmed will be healed. What was scattered would be now again gathered. What was diminished will be multiplied. We are black people. We don't die, we multiply. We pray now for economic prosperity with purpose. Let businesses rise in the Black Central District once again. Let black home owners increase. Let generational wealth be reestablished. Let vacant lots be vibrant spaces and places that you hand to Africatown. Let development not erase us, but empower us. Bless every visionary, every investor with integrity, every organizer, every elder, every young leader. Release capital now to Africatown. Release contracts now to Africatown. Release creativity now to Africatown. Release collaboration in the city. Let there be divine partnership and sponsorship that honor community with protect legacy all at the same time. God, as the leadership of Africatown have vision, now give them provision. We gather today, not because we don't have nothing else to do, but because we want to make a difference. We gather today on sacred ground, ground that remembers our footsteps, ground that carries our history, ground that still holds our promise. Lord, You have seen the harm. You saw the red line drawn. You saw the homes taken. You saw the businesses shuttered. You saw the displacement of people who built, prayed, and prospered in this place. Lord, we pray for repair beyond buildings. We pray for repair of trust, repair of dignity, repair of identity, restore what harm tried to steal. Give us the confidence of ownership, unity, and hope. As Nehemiah rebuilt the wall, give us strategy. As Joseph stewarded resources, give us wisdom. As Joshua claimed the land, give us courage. We declare once again and decree, the land will not forget us. This community will not erase us. This district will have to give us back what it stole from us. So today, we ask you to breathe on the vision of Africatown and its founders. Breathe on every planner. Breathe on every policymaker. Breathe on every entrepreneur. Breathe on every family determined to return, remain, and rebuild. So now, release prosperity with purpose. Release ownership over oppression. Release equity over inequality. Release generational wealth over generational wounds. Let vacant spaces become vibrant places. Let ideas become institutions. Let collaboration overcome competition. Let justice roll down like waters, like rivers. Let Africatown be a testimony of hope. From harm to healing, from displacement to development, from loss to legacy, from survival to prosperity. We call forth a black and thriving central district once again from the deep. Spiritually strong, economically empowered, culturally rich, and generational secure. And when history records this season, let it be said that Africatown rose like a phoenix from the ashes. Not in anger alone, but in alignment. Not just in protests or marches, but in prosperity. Not just from harm, but in holy repair. And we seal this prayer in the powerful, prolific name of the Prince of Peace and the God that we serve. And the people of God responded by saying amen.
Wow, come on, y'all. Let's give it up one more time for Bishop Tyson. Wow. We have a lot of elders in the building, so we are grateful that y'all are here. We want to make sure that we are acknowledging the elders who are also on program here. This is a very special part of the program because without the work of our elders, we would not be here. We honor your legacy. We honor your sacrifice. We honor your enduring leadership. To continue this tribute, we now welcome a poetic offering dedicated to our elders, a reflection of gratitude, memory, and forward vision. Please welcome Quayle Ver.
Hello. Before we get started, I would like every elder whose name is on this list to stand, please. Yes, if you could come up here and stand, that would be lovely so we can all see you. If you are able. And if you get tired, please take a seat. Okay, my name is Quayle Ver. This poem dedicated to our elders is called Give Them Their Flowers. There are times that call for action, no matter where you came from, no matter who you kin to. There are times that call for action, because a simple thank you just won't do. Had it not been for the grit of pioneers, the courage of freedom fighters, and entrepreneurial tributes, there would be no legacy to claim or to fight for, our dear elders, had it not been for you. And of course, we do thank you, for the leagues, the camps, the barber shops, well, for all the shops, the societies, the museums, churches, shelters, and masonries. And for food so good, even Oprah and Richard Pryor had to make a scene. The migrant sharecroppers and showstoppers, the teachers, lawyers, musicians, writers, and doctors, all fruits from the same family tree. So no, we don't get to just say thank you while crossing bridges built of hardships, love, and integrity. And it's no less than amazing just how it was all done. Despite all the hatred and losses, which family hadn't suffered? Please, name one. We gotta do better than a thank you for those who were pushed out and for those who remain, because they are the soul and the reason Seattle's black heart still beats today. Blessed are their descendants and newcomers like me, who've always traveled north in search of opportunity. Blessed are the poets, the artists, and the scribes, tasked with telling the stories of your black and beautiful lives. Must have been hard planting all these bountiful black seeds, only to be pushed away from the roots of Rainier Valley, the CD, and Seattle's Black CD. And dear elders, we owe it to you to give you, dear elders, we owe it to you to honor the tradition, to show our gratitude through our service, and when you speak, we promise to listen, because there are times that call for action. No matter where you came from, no matter who you kin to, there are times that call for action, much more than a simple thank you. So let's stand up for our elders. Come on, let's send them some power. It's time for us to show it, go be it, and live it. That's how we honor our elders. That's how we give them their flowers.
Give it up one more time, y'all, for our elders. Wow. Thank you so much. Powerful. I now have the honor. I'm going to let y'all settle. Thank you so much. Thank you to our volunteers and our youth. Let's give it up for them. Presenting the elders with their flowers and gifts. Thank y'all so much. I now have the honor and the privilege of welcoming to this stage our former state representative, Mama Dawn Mason, to present the Elder of Distinction Award. Give it up for her, y'all.
Hello, everybody. I love this event, and I'm glad it's the last day of Black History Month. I'm exhausted. But you know what? That's a good thing, because it means there's been a lot of events. And I'd like to say that as we speak about the elders, and to my sister and brother elders here, I know each of you. I know what you've done. I've watched you. We've watched you. And I also applaud you for helping us do this work. So as we go forward, I think of the young people. I heard Ebony say they're going to have an event, and she doesn't know where it's going to be in the future. I will coach Ebony to teach her how to make sure that it'll always be in the future. I have been saying recently, I'm tired of hearing about we used to and once we had. So the Elder of Distinction Award will explain why we won't be doing that anymore. The Elder Distinction Award was established in 2014 when we started the African American African Gathering, which was a listening post for the incoming mayor. And I'd like to know, could our elected officials, any elected officials or appointed officials, please stand? I see we have Tashiko, Hasagala. Come on, Councilmember Ranks. Okay. Anyone over here? I know we have Director Chappelle in the room, our education director. Thank you for being here. Because we need sustainability and passing the baton. Majali, he just came and spoke to me that they're meeting. So I met with our community. We have elders of distinction who have passed batons. The batons get passed to the next generation so we can continue. And we have to stop leaving here as elders with all our knowledge in the baton in our arthritic hands, and we aren't going to let it go. So, no, it's true. Oh, we used to have this, and once there was a whatever. So, but we need to be able to have, because if we make our young people have to dig a trench in every generation and then climb up out of that, move up, we'll never get ahead. We'll never meet those goals that we said we're going to make. We have to let them climb up, and they might make mistakes. They might change some things. But think about a baby walking. The baby walks and falls, and we'll take pictures and send it to grandma. Isn't this cute? And so that's how muscle is built. And we can't pick them up, just let them. And then when they stand on our shoulders, we must stand upright, or else they'll fall over. And we're supposed to ask them one question. Do you see the horizon? Says yes. What do you imagine on that horizon for you? Don't tell them they have to keep what we had on there. But there should be sustainability. If we have trees, there's always a tree on the horizon, but it might be a fir tree. It might be a maple tree. You understand what I'm saying? Let them grow. They'll make mistakes. That's how muscle is built. So with that, I would like to, we have, the elder distinction, how is that different than an elder? An elder is old. An elder distinction has, I only did that because these are my contemporaries. So, elder distinction has created a tangible legacy, something we can feel, something we can see, that brick as we've built our community. An elder distinction has passed on that legacy while they could still be a mentor and teach the next generation. And that has passed on. And they're still alive, and they're still well, and they're still doing the work. That's the elder distinction. And we, for the past 14 years, we've recognized elders of distinction in this place where we have our community so they can see it. It's a public recognition. So I will try to do this. Please. Oh, it did it. Look at me and my technology. So, there you go. Today we recognize and honor George Staggers as an elder of distinction. His legacy is visible. It helped shape the economic and cultural landscape of Seattle Central District. Elder Staggers served as the longtime chief executive of the Central Area Development Association, CADA, a culturally relevant community development institution in Seattle, Martin Luther King County. Under his stewardship, CADA became a stabilizing force during decades of transition. When the African American presence was experienced, the travesty of disintegration that the Washington legislature in House Bill 1918 describes as the most negative impact realized by any identifiable population. During this transition labeled, I just said that, sorry. Okay. During this transition, labeled gentrification, he was ensuring that investment, opportunity, and growth did not totally bypass the people who built our community. The northeast side of 23rd and Jackson was for years a pile of dirt. Do we remember that? For years, right. And Cada expanded it, improved it, and brought us Promenade 23. He developed the southwest corner that is now Welsh Apartments. There is more, but I have a time limit, so I can't name all the developments that Cada has done. When I was elected to the legislature and served on the Trade and Economic Development and Housing Committee, he mentored my ability to succeed and bring millions of dollars to the 37th District for housing development, making possible the completion of the McKinney Manor and Amani Village at First Place that remain in the Black community and under our ownership, and keeps the Central District's future with ties to its history. He led with consistency, gave support to small business development with patience. His mentorship is evident in Fame Equity Housing Alliance that made possible the entry of Black women into the field of housing development. He continues to advise First Place in ways that maintains compliance, growth, and endowed economic stability for this African-American governed low-income housing and education for families with children. We recognize him not only for the projects completed, but for the continuity he provides, the steady hand, the institutional memory, the commitment to Africatown Central District and beyond, where Black families, Black businesses, and Black culture can remain rooted and new culturally strong ecosystems can emerge. I present this plaque of recognition for exceptional legacy, wise mentorship, and by his passing the baton to the next generations, a sustaining presence. This award is not an expression of giving him flowers while he lives gesture. He's not going anywhere. It is for continuing in his elder years to be trusted, knowledgeable, and wise in ways that sustain us as a culturally relevant population in Seattle-King County. Elder Staggers, please come down and accept this voluntary recognition for the respect it's given, and thank you for your continued contribution from your storehouse of wisdom. Where is he? Oh, I was wondering, where is he? And so this says, 2026, the African Gathering, that's all of you, presents the Elder of Distinction Legacy Award to George M. Staggers as creator of Black generational wealth through housing and community economic development. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. Very well.
Okay, and you can go ahead and receive it.
Okay, here. I can still bend down, but I can't get up. There we go. No. Thank you. Okay. I want to say thanks to the community for allowing me the honor and privilege to serve. Thank you. My service started actually when I was at Leschi Elementary School as a school crossing guard, 5th and 6th grade. And I am a student of Dr. Mims. I don't want to take too much of your time because I know we're running a little behind schedule. I did have something to read, but unfortunately my eyesight is not very good, and I just really appreciate all of the thank yous and all of the acknowledgement of a struggle that started when I was very young, and I always enjoyed serving this community. I believe this is the most beautiful community that anyone could ever serve and live in, and work in, and worship in. I know I've had my differences with some, but I've always felt that everyone deserves to be respected, regardless of their opinions, regardless of their political attributes. And I look forward to continuing to serve this beautiful community now and in the near future. God bless you all.
Let's give it up one more time for our Elder of Distinction, y'all. Thank you so much. We have now come to a central moment in our program today. I'm really grateful for our keynote speaker who is here. I want to share some background with you all so we can identify and understand who we have before us, okay? Bernadette Atuahane is a Harvard and Yale-trained property law scholar whose work focuses on the land and homes stolen from Black people. She currently holds the Dugan Chair at the University of Southern California Gould School of Law. Atuahane has served as a judicial clerk at the South African Constitutional Court, worked as a consultant for the South African Land Claims Commission, and practiced at a global law firm called Cleary Gottlieb. She is the author of We Want What's Ours, Learning from South Africa's Land Restitution Program. And she directed and produced an award-winning short documentary film about one South African family's struggle to regain their land. Atuahane has won several accolades and has published extensively in both academic journals and news outlets such as the New York Times and LA Times. Please join me in welcoming Bernadette Atuahane, presenting Plunder and Repair.
Good morning, everybody. I am so honored and delighted to be here today to celebrate the decade of service for the, so I want to just say, before getting to this book, I want to tell you a little bit about my background and how I came to do this work. So my parents immigrated to America from Ghana in West Africa. And when I was a child, I knew I had 4 career options and 4 career options only. I could be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a disgrace to the entire family. Ooh. I was bad at math, so engineering was a complete and total no-go. The even thought of dissecting a cadaver to this day makes me want to barf, so being a doctor was not in the cards for me. And since I was absolutely determined not to be a disgrace, so law was the only option left. But I didn't want to be just any old lawyer. Ever since I enrolled at UCLA for undergrad, I knew that I wanted to be a change maker protecting intergenerational wealth in my community. And y'all, when I commit to something, I am all in. I worked myself to the bone and made it to Yale Law School and Harvard's Kennedy School of Government for my graduate studies. Eventually, I became a law professor, and now I can tell you that 100% of my scholarly research, writing, and activism has to do with land stolen from Black people. Now, I do what's called ethnography, which means I live and immerse myself in the place I study. And my first ethnographic project was examining stolen land in South Africa. And my first book, We Want What's Ours, Learning from South Africa's Land Restitution Program, really examined the psychological, political, social, economic consequences of getting land or money back. And in that book, I developed two concepts. The first is called a dignity taking, and that's the idea, like, if I take something from you, at the moment of compensation, the point is to give that thing back. But there's other instances where I take something from you as part of a larger strategy of dehumanization or infantilization. In those instances, I've stolen more than just your property. I've also tried to steal your dignity, so I call that a dignity taking. And the argument is, when this larger harm called a dignity taking has occurred, mere reparations are not enough. Just giving you compensation for that physical asset is not enough. What's required is a more robust remedy that I call dignity restoration. And that's the process of giving people assets while also affirming their autonomy and their humanity. And what that looks like is putting dispossessed individuals and communities in the driver's seat and allowing them to determine how it is that they're made whole. Now, the book was a huge success. At the official book launch in Johannesburg, South Africa, the Deputy Land Claims Commissioner himself attended and publicly announced that the commission planned to implement 90% of the book's recommendations. Now, that first book, while wildly successful, was actually really uncomfortable for me in many ways because it was looking at Black people as the victims, right? Black people getting stolen from. So in my next ethnographic project, I was determined to study Black agency. I want to look at when we were stealing the land instead of being stolen from, right? So I decided to study squatting, because this is when vulnerable populations are taking land instead of, again, being stolen from. And Detroit has one of the largest squatting phenomenons, urban squatting phenomenons happening in current US history. So I won a big National Science Foundation grant to study squatting in Detroit, and that's how I actually arrived in Detroit, because I'm originally from LA. Now, a squatter is someone who occupies a property without the permission of the record owner. And there's two types of squatters. What normal people think of as a squatter, I call a takeover, someone who rolls up onto a piece of property without, any prior legal relationship to that property. But I teach at USC, and I'm teaching property right now to first years, and I teach my first years in property about a concept called holdovers. And those are people who had a prior relationship to the property but fell out of it. So for my sample, I had to interview both takeovers and holdovers. And when I was interviewing the holdovers, one person after the next said, I was an owner and I got tax foreclosed. And I stayed waiting for the new owners to arrive. Now, as a property scholar, I knew a lot about mortgage foreclosure, but I knew next to nothing about tax foreclosure. So I had to really start doing my homework. And I quickly found that since 2009, 1 in 3 homes has completed the property tax foreclosure process in Detroit. 1 in 3. We haven't seen this number of property tax foreclosures in American history since the Great Depression. So given the and just again, y'all know this, but let me just say, Detroit is an 80% Black city, the biggest, blackest city in America, right? So let me just situate ourselves here. So, given the gravity of the situation, my work is not theoretical, right? I'm living, those are my neighbors. I live in the communities I study. And my neighbors, their homes are getting stolen, so I called up NSF and said, I got to switch from squatting to really understanding the property tax foreclosure. And so since 2017, I've been living in Detroit full time, really trying to understand the property tax foreclosure from those I live beside. But that put me again, instead of, I was excited to study Black agency, it had me again studying our victimhood. So in the book, Myrisha Brown is one of more than 150 homeowners who I interviewed for my study. Now, Myrisha is this petite brown-skinned woman with this super cute pixie cut. And hers is one of the many stories I tell in my book, Plundered: How Racist Policies Undermine Black Homeownership in America. So one cold winter day, Myrisha and I actually decided we were going to return to the house on Bayless Street that she had lost through property tax foreclosure. And as we walked towards the house, Myrisha was like, dang, Professor, I haven't been back here since, my kids and I were evicted some years ago. I'm feeling some kind of way. I was like, don't worry, girl, I got you. We're going to do this together. And as soon as we stepped into the yard, we noticed that the home was vacant. And for Myrisha, this was a total and complete gut punch because she had worked so hard to make sure her home did not become a blighted, vacant structure like so many of the homes on her block and so many of the homes in the city of Detroit. As we walked around the home's perimeter, she pointed out all the places she had told me about in the multiple interviews we had conducted throughout the years. She said, Professor, right here, this is a spot where our garage used to be. A fire that started next door burned down the garage. She said, this right here, this is where my granddad's apple tree used to be. When he died, and it eventually got torn down. As we moved from the backyard to the side of the home, she stopped and peered through the side window to get a better look at the living room, which was where her grandmother, who lived to age 102, spent her last days. And when she was looking through the window, Myrisha's face just turned ashen. So I was like, wait, what's going on? So I ran over next to her to see what in the world was going on. And can I tell you that we both could not believe our eyes? The pipes in the home had frozen and burst, covering the living room in at least a foot of ice. Myrisha just started wailing, and all I could do was just stand there, hold her, and cry with her. So this home on Bayless Street meant so much to Myrisha because her grandparents fought hell and high water to acquire it. Despite racial covenants, redlining, blockbusting, urban renewal, and other racist policies, in their retirement, Myrisha's grandparents were finally able to purchase this home. And it was, without a doubt, their dream home. And what's crazy is the home was in an area where racial covenants had once prevented blacks from living, but when whites moved to the suburbs, blacks moved in. Now, the home on Bayless Street was the only asset that Myrisha's grandparents had to pass down. But by the time Myrisha's grandmother passed away, I told y'all she lived to 102, nobody even wanted the home. No family member even wanted the home because it was no longer a valuable asset. It had become a money pit. The home had broken windows that were covered with plastic to keep the elements out. There was no functioning shower or bath in the home, and plaster was falling from the ceilings. And the other homes on the block were in equally bad shape. But what I need you to understand is that when historic and modern day redlining cut off funds for home improvement, this type of blight is the inevitable result. Given the poor shape of the Bayless Street home, the real question is, why in the world was Myrisha so eager to inherit her grandparents' home and so dedicated to rehabilitating it when other family members wanted absolutely nothing to do with the home? When I interviewed Myrisha for the first time, she really gave me some insight into this quandary. And she shared her life with me, and she told me that she's the oldest child and a woman. We're about to talk about gender. And she was carrying back-breaking caretaking responsibilities on her very narrow shoulders. Myrisha told me that not only did she take care of her own 2 children, she also had to take care of their father, who was in a wheelchair as a result of a carjacking. She told me she had to care for her sister, who had a debilitating autoimmune disease, and that sister's child. Myrisha also had to care for another sister who had irreversible brain damage, and that sister's young son. Because of our nation's poorest social safety net, women like Myrisha are forced to fill the gaps at great cost to themselves. After spending time with Myrisha, it became super clear why she couldn't easily abandon her grandparents' home on Bayless Street. Under no circumstances does Myrisha dodge or evade family responsibilities. No matter how daunting, she takes them on head on. So rehabilitating her grandparents' legacy is not something that Myrisha wanted to do. It's something that Myrisha had to do. Some of Myrisha's most precious childhood memories happened in Bayless Street. She said, Professor, I remember scooping up the apples my granddaddy shook down from the apple tree. She said those are some of the juiciest green apples in the whole city of Detroit. Above all, Marisha's what I would call a ride-to-die Detroiter. She don't play about her city. And she did not want the home to become a vacant eyesore like so many other homes in the city, contributing to the story of the city's demise instead of the city's revival. That's why that day where we both returned to the home on Bayless Street and she saw the living room filled with at least a foot of ice, she felt like a complete and total failure. But I need you to hear me. Marisha failed because individual efforts are no match for broken systems. Let me say that again. Marisha failed because individual efforts are no match for broken systems. The saga started when Marisha found a yellow bag attached to her porch. It looks just like, if you guys, I'll be with the book, the book cover has this yellow bag on it. And when she opened the bag, she found a legal notice informing her that the property tax foreclosure process had begun, and if she did not pay her debt by March 31st of the following year, Wayne County would sell her home at its tax foreclosure auction. After she read the notice, Marisha was flooded with emotion. She felt scared. She felt anxious. She felt depressed. But most of all, y'all, I want you to know she felt shame. She was ashamed because a yellow bag announced to the entire neighborhood that she was behind on her taxes and about to lose her grandparents' home. But when she looked up, surprisingly, almost every other home on the block had a yellow bag attached to the porch. So at that point, she knew something was awry. She didn't know exactly what was going on, but she knew something wasn't right. And when I first interviewed Marisha, she blamed herself for losing her home. She said, well, Prof, the point is, clearly I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And most city officials that I interviewed also explained the property tax foreclosure crisis with what I call these narratives of personal irresponsibility. One of them told me, well, Professor, the problem is that Detroiters just don't want to pay their taxes. Another one said, the problem is Detroiters bought homes they couldn't afford. And another city official, I'm going to call him out by name, the Detroit treasurer, Dave Shabansky, told me and also told a room full of 900 black people about to lose their home as he's standing on this dais. Unfortunately, when Detroiters had a choice between buying a purse and paying their taxes, they decided to buy the purse. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Okay. But my research tells a very different story. It's not a story of personal irresponsibility, it's a story of structural injustice. In researching this book, I have interviewed hundreds of homeowners, government officials, and investors. I've combed through reams and reams of tax assessment data. Y'all, I even took a 9-month course and passed a state exam to become a certified Michigan property tax assessor, okay? I told y'all, when I go all in, I go in. And my comprehensive investigation shows that between 2009 and 2015, in each of these 7 years, the city of Detroit overvalued between 53% and 84% of its properties in violation of the Michigan State Constitution, which quite clearly says no property can be assessed at more than 50% of its market value. And the lowest valued homes, like the home on Bayless Street, that Marisha inherited, were the ones that were most severely affected. I'm not the only one doing research. The Detroit News did an expose, and they found that the city of Detroit overtaxed Detroit homeowners by at least $600 million. Since over 30% of Detroit residents live below the poverty line, many homeowners didn't have the money to pay for these illegally inflated property taxes. And what was worse, they lost their homes for property taxes they weren't even supposed to be paying in the first place. Because in Michigan, when you live below the poverty line, you qualify for a poverty tax exemption. But the city of Detroit made this entitlement so hard to get and did not publicize it, that we had over 30,000 families lose their homes for their failure to pay illegal property taxes that they should not have been paying in the first place. So that day when Myrisha saw those yellow bags attached to every other home, right, that's what was going on. My God, my God. And what I need you to know is when a local government takes a family home for failure to pay property taxes, it's not just taking bricks and mortar. It's taking intergenerational wealth. It's taking priceless memories. Through the chaos of eviction, families lose so much. They lose those precious family photos. They lose grandmama's quilts. They lose, those height marks we etch into the door frames to mark our children's growth. They lose neighbors who have become like family. Right? When you go through property tax foreclosure, you lose so much. And because most tax foreclosed homes had been inherited and were fully paid off, people blame themselves for losing mama's home or granddaddy's home. Right? If they had a mortgage on the home, the bank would have taken the home before the government got to it. So during the interviews I conducted with tax foreclosed homeowners, I really cannot tell you how much shame and self-lambasting was going on. It got so bad that after I finished the interviews, obviously I couldn't say anything during the interviews to bias the data, but after I finished the interview, I would call some people back. And I would say, you know what, sis? I would say, you know what, my brother? I would tell them there is no reason to feel shame. I would tell them systemic injustice was hidden in these very complex property tax calculations. I would tell them that racist policies had you out here trying to slay a dragon with a butter knife. Now, I use Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, who's a dear friend of mine, his definition of racist policies, which are written and unwritten laws and policies and processes that produce or sustain racial inequity. Now, the way property taxes are administered in Wayne County is undoubtedly qualifies. Wayne County has 43 cities. 33 have a supermajority of white people, 70% or more. And 3, Detroit, Inkster, and Highland Park, have a supermajority of black people. And so I did a study, and we found that the majority black cities are overtaxed and foreclosed on at a far greater rate than the majority white cities. This is racial injustice. But I now need you to know that this injustice is not at all exclusively a Detroit problem. I need you to understand that Detroit is ground zero for a national problem. A study done by 2 of my colleagues, Troop Howard and Carlos Avanasio Leon, shows that blacks and Hispanics on average pay a 10 to 13% higher property tax rate than whites for the same bundle of goods, which equals on average $300 to $400 more per year, nationally. So racialized property tax administration is a nationwide problem that our nation has not even begun to talk about. And most importantly, this is a quintessential example of what I call in my book, plundered predatory governance. And that means when local governments intentionally or unintentionally raise public dollars through racist policies. We've seen predatory governance before. That's exactly what we saw in Ferguson, Missouri. Beyond what happened to our dear brother Michael Brown, there is an excellent Department of Justice report that documents how police in Ferguson were engaging in unconstitutional policing and subjecting African Americans to excessive fines and fees. Who benefited financially? Not some corrupt police officer, but the city of Ferguson itself. Predatory governance is what's happening in Detroit and many other cities where local governments are inflating the property taxes of black and brown homeowners. Who financially benefits? Again, not some corrupt public official, but the public coffers. So just as Detroit is ground zero for a national problem, the part that gives me light and gives me hope and gives me joy is that Detroit is also the epicenter of the resistance. Once my research exposed the hidden structural problems, this information lifted the shame, allowed homeowners to stop beating themselves up, and made room for righteous indignation so that the fight back could begin. In 2017, my students and I joined with over a dozen grassroots organizations to create an organization called the Coalition for Property Tax Justice. And the coalition has 3 goals and 3 goals only. Number 1 is to stop these overassessments, not only in Detroit, but throughout the nation. Number 2 is to stop the ongoing foreclosures in Detroit until we can make sure that people are being assessed for what they actually owe. And number 3 is to provide compensation, because you can't have all this empirically unchallenged proof of overassessment talking about some oops, I'm sorry. Okay, we need some compensation. So by building community power, we have secured several significant wins. Now, we've halted roughly 13,000 tax foreclosures by pressuring the Wayne County Treasurer to place a moratorium on homes in 2020 through 2024. We have helped over 1,000 Detroit homeowners successfully apply for a total of $4.4 million in federal ARPA money to pay their illegally inflated property tax debt. My students and I have appealed the property tax assessments of over 1,000 Detroit homeowners completely free of charge. And we have secured $6 million from the city of Detroit for compensation. And I told you they stole $600 million, so I need you to understand that $6 million as a start. But most importantly, through something we call the Dignity Restoration Project, now this comes full circle with the work in South Africa, we're raising $10 million to compensate the hardest hit Detroiters like Myrisha, who lost their homes due to their failure to pay illegally inflated property taxes that they weren't supposed to be paying in the first place because they qualified for the poverty tax exemption. If you're interested in knowing more about the work, you can go to the dignityrestorationproject.org. Again, dignityrestorationproject.org. You can go there and contribute, and your contribution sends a message saying, I see you, and I affirm your dignity to Myrisha and the other 30,000 people, again, who lost their homes for property taxes they weren't supposed to be paying in the first place. To conclude, I'm glad that I didn't become an engineer. I'm glad that I did not become a doctor. I'm glad that I became a lawyer fighting against the theft of Black homes, fighting to protect our intergenerational wealth and our dignity. Both of my parents have gone on to glory, but I know they are smiling down on me because somehow, some way, I have managed not to be a disgrace. But more importantly, and let me get serious here, and more seriously, people in Detroit and throughout the country who are filled with shame because they are fighting a losing battle against racist policies, they are not a disgrace either. I'll stop there. Now, Spirit is moving me to give y'all one more piece. Do I have 5 more minutes? Spirit, let me say this, because I want a chance to bring this local. So if I could, thank you. So the book uses 2 grandfathers, because I'm not trying to tell you, I'm trying to show you. So these 2 grandfathers were both sharecroppers in their place of origin, all right? Grandpa Brown was a sharecropper from North Carolina, and Black, and Grandpa Bucci's a sharecropper from Italy in a system called mezzadria. And what's interesting is they both come to Detroit at the same time, between 1903 and 1905, to work at the same factory, Ford's River Rouge factory, which if you know anything about that was one of the meanest, dirtiest, most dangerous of Ford's factories. And so what I'm able to show you is the trajectory of these men who had very similar beginnings, right? And so what we find with Grandpa Bucci is he at no point had an easy life. Grandpa Bucci literally had 4 fingers because one of his fingers got sliced off in a work accident. Before he made it to Detroit, he worked in France's coal mines and lost a finger, okay? Grandpa Bucci never had an easy life because Grandpa Bucci was Italian before Italians became white. Could we talk about it? Okay. But even though Grandpa Bucci never had an easy life, at no point did he deal with racial covenants. which are covenants tucked in deeds that prevented Black people from living in the best parts of the city, and more importantly, prevented Black people from living in the suburbs where the homes were cheaper, bigger, with better amenities. Grandpa Bucci had a hard life, but at no point did he have to deal with redlining, which is because of these racial covenants, Black people only had certain communities that they could live in, like this community. And so then the federal government puts a red line around our communities, right, to say we're a credit risk. And that means we're not getting valuable investment like home loans, mortgages, repair loans, small business loans. And so the inevitable result of redlining is blight. Grandpa Bucci had a hard life, but at no point did he have to deal with urban renewal, another process that happened in this very community, right? Urban renewal, they raised entire communities. And not only did they take the blighted homes, but they took the unblighted homes. They took the productive Black businesses and the Black cultural institutions. And instead of living in communities where we were tightly interconnected and networked, now, since there were only a few, because of segregation, a few places we could move, we're now living in communities of strangers. Grandpa Bucci had a hard life, but at no point did he have to deal with blockbusting, which is because of redlining, the very presence of Black people could reduce the market value of homes. And so when Black people would move into a neighborhood, white people would sell because of this phenomenon created by redlining. And that white people would sell quickly. Anytime you sell quickly, you sell at a reduced price. And these real estate intermediaries would resell to Black people, and they then at elevated prices. So the point here is that when you look at, again, the difference between Grandpa Bucci and Grandpa Brown, Grandpa Bucci's grandson inherited his home, and his home is worth over $250,000 in a suburb of Detroit called Livonia. Grandpa Brown's granddaughters, who I was just talking to about, Myrisha, and what she inherited was a money pit instead of a valuable asset. Why? Because of these layers and layers of racist policies. But the story America tells is Grandpa Bucci got what he got because he worked hard. I'm here to tell you Grandpa Brown worked hard too. Grandpa Brown worked hard too. And I want to close by just saying, when we look at the Black community and we see these issues and problems, who gets the blame is what's visible, the Black people in the communities. These racist policies have no shoulders on which to carry the blame. So our charge as people who love justice is to make the invisible visible. In every conversation, when you hear these narratives of personal irresponsibility, the community's like it is because having babies out of wedlock, committing crime, whatever excuse they want to say, your job is to switch the conversation from any narrative of personal irresponsibility to point out these layers and layers of racist policies. That is the work of those of us who love justice. I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for Dr. Bernadette Atuahaney. Wow. Oh, we are so grateful for that grounding of truth. The example in Detroit, which is really making a stance across this nation. And I want to take a moment here to introduce and welcome to the stage President and CEO of Africatown Community Land Trust, K.Y. King Garrett, to truly ground us in this local struggle here. Thank you.
All right. Peace. Good morning. It's the first time I had the headset. It's a little weird. I feel like Drewski at Prosperity. I'm coming down from the ceiling. Can we give it up again for our dear sister, scholar, warrior, Professor Bernadette Atuahini. I know Ya Asantewa is proud. Ya Asantewa is proud. We have to fight on all fronts. This has been a beautiful program. I think I'm gonna be able to give about 20 minutes of my speech back because it's already been said. Bishop Tyson said, generational wealth over generational wounds. And that poem by Sister Quayle, I mean, honoring our elders, and the Honorable Don Mason never falls short. The passing the baton is so critical, and I'm just appreciative that I have the opportunity within this marathon to carry the baton for a little bit, right? Because it's really a relay. It's a relay, right? And so, thank you all for being here. I know it's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of times it's easier to scroll down and swipe left than it is to show up and stand for what's right. But we've all showed up to here today, and that matters. It matters to this neighborhood. It matters to our ancestors. It matters to our future generations. It matters to our collective futures and the community we love. And what we're here to talk about today is not a side issue. It's not a small concern. It's not just a Black issue, an Africatown issue. This is a Seattle issue. It's a Martin Luther King County issue. It's a Washington State issue. And as we heard, it's a nationwide and a global issue, right? And so we want to always understand the context that we exist in. And the question that we're asking is, who gets to belong in this city? Who gets to stay? Who gets to return? Who gets to build a future here and call it home? And our biggest question is, are there Black people in the future? That's the question that we asked. My name is K.Y. King Garrett. I'm a third-generation community builder from the Central District, belovedly our Africatown right here in Seattle. I stand here today not as a policy analyst or organizer or a developer or a CEO, but really as a son of the Central District, the neighborhood that raised me. Coaches who weren't related to me, but treated me like family. Matriarchs like Beulah Walker, Afua Wakoma, Jerry Ann Brown, who opened their homes to so many of us children in this community. I grew up understanding that barbershops weren't just places for cutting hair. In the CD, barbershops were town halls, newsrooms, gathering spots, therapy sessions. Churches weren't just for song and worship, they were safe spaces, safety nets for anyone who needed a helping hand. Cornerstones put people over transactions like Jordan's and Mr. Parnell's, the original, right? It wasn't hurry up and buy, pick and pay. It was how's your mother, stay out of trouble, keep up the good work in school. The Central District, the CD, has never just been a place to me. It has always been a remarkable ecosystem of care, a place where Black families who were told there was nowhere else they could buy and plant roots, planted roots and grew as a beautiful garden. A garden that time and time again, as we heard, by policies, has been trampled on. Seeds that weren't allowed to flourish season after season. And as we heard so eloquently articulated, the harm done was not accidental. From the National Housing Act in 1934 that labeled black neighborhoods as hazardous and denied us access to the single greatest wealth-building tool in American history, the 30-year mortgage, where white families leveraged government black loans to purchase homes and build equity, black families were blocked from those same loans and forced to scramble to maintain stable housing. The GI Bill opened doors to veterans in 1944, but those doors were closed to many black veterans who sacrificed their lives and came back to face systems of discriminatory banking. Then the Federal Highway Act and urban renewal, or as James Baldwin called it, Negro removal, as we heard about earlier. These same neighborhoods eventually were divested from and then became desirable again. And so the same places that we were pushed to, now that oil was discovered, became the same place that we're pushed from. We're talking about populations that's been reported as high as 90% black going down towards 10%. So we know harm is what collusion between government and private sectors did to the bank. You got the banks on one side, the government on the other side, and collusion. Those are facts. They're very documented. There's been books, many books. But harm is not our story. Our story is that of resilience, of regeneration, of innovation, making a way out of no way. From the East Madison Mardi Gras to the Black Community Festival of Moja Fest, Garfield High School to CAY, from block parties to Juneteenth. Events united our community, established traditions that will be passed on from generation to generation. We made reuniting and connecting with each other a regular practice. We made space to celebrate ourselves and uplift one another. These events were reminders that no matter how hard it gets, we are not alone as long as we have each other. So as I stand before you as a child of the Central District, the CD, and CEO of Africatown Community Land Trust, I stand here knowing what it was like to be in the CD before the devastation of gentrification, or BC, before crack. I stand here knowing what it feels like to be supported and cared for by your community. I stand here knowing the transformative impact that real community has, not only on quality of life, but our lifespans. 10 years ago, Africatown Community Land Trust was founded on a simple but seemingly radical belief. If black families can own land, we can stay. If we can stay, we can build. And if we build, the whole city is better and stronger. That belief has guided our actions for the last decade. ACLT actually wasn't something that I set out to build. My focus really was on protecting and nurturing our youth. But on that journey, it came to be clear how central land was to their own trajectory. Children need a place to belong. Yet, again and again, we found ourselves displaced in the very neighborhood that we grew up in. From Umoja Peace Center, from Coleman School to African American Heritage Museum, to the Peace Center, to Horace Mann, to Black Dot. We found ourselves displaced time and time again while trying to grow and create and maintain safe spaces for our young people. So it became clear that new strategies were needed. And I do come from a legacy where it was clear that the struggle was for land. Meeting by meeting, starting with the Union Street Business Association, and Africatown stakeholders, and young people, and artists, creatives, hip-hop artists, conversation by conversation, things began to take shape. Resources were non-existent, but we had each other. We had ideas, and we had an image of what we wanted for our future. And so now, you go to 23rd, 24th and Union, and you see proof of what's possible, right? Liberty Bank Building became a living testament to what happens when we don't give up. Advocating, rallying, organizing, and pushing for what our children and our ancestors and our elders deserve. When I see that corner, I am proud. My grandfather helped establish Liberty Bank, Holbrook Garrett. My father, Omari Tahir Garrett, carried the mantle to make sure that that corner came back to our community. And now, ACLT's work ensures that it remains a fixture for generations to come. Earl's, Communion, Cafe A Bowl are more than businesses. They are living extensions of our Black legacy and culture in the Central District. In Black communities, our businesses are also cultural safe spaces, protecting and promoting our connections to one another. After Liberty Bank Building, and Brian Surratt is here, now our deputy mayor, was at the mayor's office at the time, and supported the Liberty Bank and then the Africatown Midtown MOU, based on the Africatown Equitable Development Framework that we developed. More opportunities for Black businesses were created, more opportunities for Black contractors, and more connecting our young people to positive pathways. Midtown Square is now alive with Black businesses like Art Noir, Jerk Shack, Marjorie's, and the Risol. That was not an accident. That was from intentional focus, imagining, designing, and building the future that we wanted to see. It's said that the best way to predict the future is to what? To create it. And that's what Africatown Community Land Trust and Africatown is about. Africatown Plaza was our first project that we led from conception to completion, a blueprint for development without displacement, a refusal to accept that growth must cost us ourselves. And over the past 10 years, we've proven something powerful, that community ownership works. The question is now no longer if it works, the question is whether we have the courage to scale it. And so what we are building now, it's not just buildings. We always say that buildings don't build community, people do. But what we're building is not just buildings. We're actually installing and erecting the infrastructure for a new ecosystem to grow. An ecosystem where land is secured in community stewardship, housing remains permanently affordable, youth move through a pipeline of developing their brilliance and realizing their potential. Black businesses anchor our corridors from Union to Jackson to Cherry. Culture is preserved, not as decoration, but as a testament to the past as well as the future. As a student of history that understands the facts that brought us to this moment, I am excited and optimistic for where we are today. Seattle has begun through these projects and many more that have emanated from this work, because it wasn't just about our projects, it was about changing the policy environment, bringing over nearly $500 million into community through across many different projects, through the work of folks like Jim Buchanan, collaborating with Jim Buchanan on Community Reinvestment Program, $200 million. King County Equity Now, the $100 million. And now we just had the recent $80 million working through the previous administration and Council President Joy Hollingsworth for reparations for housing in our community. And so when we think about 2050, we can see Seattle, which when the Space Needle was erected said this is a city of the future. It's a model that's looked at by cities not only across this country but across the world. Seattle can be a model of a thriving city that has faced its past, atoned for its wrongs, and invested in new systems that ensure that the Black community can stay and grow and thrive in place. A city that leads the nation in positive outcomes, from public safety to healthcare. And we're grateful that the new mayor has said, this is our city, this is your city. But we also know that in order for it to be ours, we have to have some titles, some deeds, and some keys, right? So we want to make sure our work is about moving rhetoric to reality, to bricks and mortar, something that you can touch, something that's tangible, okay? And so that's the question that we're faced with, right? What do we do now? We have a new administration in the city, we have a new administration at the county, and we have nothing but possibility in front of us if we can invest in those things that have already been proven to show us what's possible. One of our driving questions, because we love the work that we've done, but we also have to come back to this question, and I believe it's a Maasai saying in East Africa, a greeting actually. How are the children? And so when we look at just at Garfield High School, only 12% of our students are proficient in math, 27% in science, and 37% in English and writing. That's not a failure of our children, as we heard before. It's not individual shame. It's a failure of infrastructure. It's a failure of our collective responsibility to our future. When makeshift memorials become permanent fixtures in our community, in contrast to murals about a glorious past, we know that it's a failure of infrastructure. When vigils for our young people become routine events, we know that the infrastructure for safe passage to a thriving future is failing. And so Africatown is about building infrastructure, land infrastructure, housing infrastructure, cultural infrastructure, economic infrastructure. And there's a choice. Seattle can keep reacting to crisis after crisis, or we can commit to installing those new systems that prevent those crises from happening in the first place. And so the opportunity is to really commit. We've had studies after studies after studies. We've been studied since the Kerner Commission in 1967. And it all says the same thing. Anti-Black racism is the cause of the conditions that we find ourselves in. And so a commitment to partnering with Africatown is a commitment to addressing youth violence by creating safe, vibrant, thriving communities where our young people are using 3D printers to create prototypes for products, prosthetics, and not printing out clocks with switches. right? It's about replacing negative technology with positive technology for creation, right? Enabling their imagination. For every 100 high school students in unstable housing, approximately 30 will have experienced sexual violence in the past year, compared to 11 out of 100 stably housed students. Unstably housed students are nearly twice as likely to have seriously considered suicide or made a suicide plan. For these and many other reasons, we are building. Our focus by 2050 is to build 2,500 affordable homes. At our guest home, at our Banu community home, Banu is in the building, right across the street from here. We've provided housing to over 500 of our community members coming out of the streets and not having a place to stay. But not just, again, housing. It's about dignity, respect, and seeing what's possible for them and not just where they're at. Wraparound services that have led to many transitioning into secure permanent housing. We are committed to ensuring that our families harmed by redlining, racial injustice, and displacement can stay, own, and thrive here. We are committed to protecting the children of our community, which has been said, the children are the greatest wealth of any nation. And we have to resource and grow for them to be able to grow and thrive here. So, where are we going? Over the next 3 years, we're raising $250 million in combined public and private investments to build 200 units of affordable housing across the street. Our Youth Achievement Center, in partnership with Community Passageways and Creative Justice, adding housing to the William Gross Center site. Building affordable home ownership on our South Walker project. And this year, our focus is $2.5 million to stabilize what has already been built over the past 10 years, because it takes resources. These dollars will scale the wraparound services to be able to support our residents to have positive economic mobility once they come into Liberty Bank and Africatown Plaza and other affordable housing projects. We don't want them to stop there. We want them to move towards ownership. And for some, the number may seem high, $250 million. Well, for our community, we said we need $1 billion. Anti-displacement reparative fund. That's what King County Equity Now said in 2020. But in the 2023, the King County commissioned a study that said over $5 billion have been stolen from Black community based on discriminatory housing practices. Just housing. We're not talking about criminal justice. We're not talking about mass incarceration, just in housing. So again, as our professor shared with us, that's just a down payment, right? We deserve to be made whole. And so for everyone that's here and those that aren't here, spread the word to them. We definitely need you to commit, to invest. An investment in Africatown has shown that it's a gift that keeps on giving, right? There's many other, now our churches, shout out to Bishop Tyson and Goodwill, they just got their homeownership project funded, right? So our churches, instead of selling the land and moving south because they accepted the narrative that we're gone, they're now keeping their land and building, right? But in 2015, when we started, we didn't believe. We said, oh, you know how the movies go, the Black person get killed first. We're out of here. But now we're reconnecting, right, across the community. We didn't have Black developers. Now there's multiple Black developers building, right? But we need to get our developers a scale. So when we invest in Africatown, it keeps going, right? Changing policies at the Washington State Housing Commission to prioritize buying for, right? So that's many communities benefiting from this. To our city and county leadership, treat Africatown as core infrastructure because that's what we are. To philanthropy, leaders, we appreciate the annual grant opportunities. But 2026 and beyond, we look to you to broaden multi-year commitments, opportunities that match the scale of the harm and the scale of the rebuilding opportunity. To our community, thank you for showing up. Please continue to show up. Keep holding us accountable. Keep building with us. To the ACLT, Africatown Community Land Trust Board, employees, contractors, vendors, and volunteers, can you please stand up and be acknowledged? All of our board members, please. Our staff, Africatown Community Land Trust, Banu, William Gross Center, Emoja Fest, Africatown Center for Education Innovation, the whole ecosystem. Working tirelessly every day, I thank you. We are because you are. They told us the Central District was a has-been for Black people, a past reality to be memorialized by plaques and murals and statues. Because of you, we've built living memorials where the activities of the past are honored by activities today. We honor our entrepreneurs like D. Charlene by having spaces where the next D. Charlene can be cultivated to be an entrepreneur. The next Louis Rudd of Ezell's, right? The next Jacob Lawrence. I received a book today, and I'm so grateful. I have, this is from our great historian, Esther Mumford, and it says, the man who founded a town. I have all of her books, Black Victorians, Calabash. So I encourage you, she has documented our history right here in Seattle. But we honor those who founded towns by founding, sustaining, and building our towns. That's all Africatown's about. We've had our Black Wall Streets, we've had our Rosewoods, and we can do it again. And that's what we want to engage our young people in. And so, my conviction has never been as strong. I'm an optimist, and for me, it's not an if, it's not a how. The Black and thriving Seattle that we had glimpses of as a child is what we need to make our now, and we can do it. Let's do it together. Let's build together. Thank you. And I have one more thing to say. Any policy agenda, this is probably the most important thing, that does not include repair for the descendants of American chattel slavery that migrated to this area and then endured decades of anti-Black racism, while claiming to be about equity and social justice, is completely inadequate and not acceptable. And so we have to be recognized for what we've given to this country, what we've given to this city, what we've given to Martin Luther King County, and we should never be on the back seat because of any issue, because we've been dealing with this for 500 years in this country, and if we can't get justice, nobody will get justice.
Wow, there it is. Oh, let's give it up one more time for KY King Garry, y'all. My goodness. Of course, now, with all that has been said, we do have elected officials in the building so that we can hear directly from them and understand how they will address the need and the sign of the times we are in. In the building, we have our Seattle City Council President, Joy Hollingsworth. Please come to the stage. We have our King County Executive, Gurmai Zahalai, in the building. Please make your way to the stage. And we have the new City of Seattle Mayor, Katie Wilson. Please make your way to the stage. We will allow you all to address the needs and what you have heard today, and to be centered on your commitments to the people of this great city, and for you, the people of the county.
Do I go to the platform? I can? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Good. Is it afternoon? Is it good morning? It's afternoon. So I can't say grand rising to everybody. Some of us just got up. It's Saturday. Hey. Well, first off, it is such an honor to be here with you all today and to see all the melanin in the room. I just want to, right? Thank you, Africatown, for the opportunity. That was phenomenal to hear our keynote speakers, K.Y. King Garrett, TraeAnna, all the people. Elder Mason, cannot forget her. You got to say her name or else Elder Mason. Amen. Amen. Okay. Because I'll hear it after. You did not recognize me. Sorry. So I come to you. Come on, am I serious? Don't play. All right. And you know, she'd be on the phone for like an hour or two, and you gotta be like, hey, my mama's on the other line, I got to go. It's the only excuse I can get off the phone with you is my mama is on the other line. So I come to you today. I always say I'm a fourth generation Seattleite from the Central District. And I remember when I was running, people would always say, why do you always say you're fourth generation? Why do you always, talk about that? Because that's when our family moved from the South to Seattle in place for a new life. And that was the new beginning of our family. And that's why I always talk about it. That was our fourth generation. And I always talk about my grandmother. She was born in South Carolina in 1920, and she moved on the same land in which her family was enslaved on in 1920 in Bishopville, and she moved to Seattle. And I talk about her a lot, but I also talk about my grandfather. My grandfather was born in Oklahoma, went to Langston University. I'm a product of a bunch of people who went to historically black colleges and universities, Payne College, Langston. My mom went to Xavier University in New Orleans. And so when we are, for the last 2 years, I'm in my third year of being on the Seattle City Council and representing the Central District, First Hill, Capitol Hill, Madrona. District 3 is very, very wide. And what I saw for the last 2 years when I go out to the community and people were asking about things, whether it was Africatown or the different groups, black community, it was a ton of talking about land, home ownership. Joy, we want what would you say? We want the deed, the whole thing, the titles and the keys. But you said it better. Why can't you? How did you say it? It was the keys. Thank you. The keys and the title and everything. Everything. All the stuff. That's what I constantly heard about is people talking about, I want home ownership. I want to own my business. I want economic mobility, all the issues that we were having. And so what we did was we talked about, we put together kind of like this plan, this framework. This had nothing to do with the city of Seattle. It was just our office so we could figure out framework when we're doing and we're talking about budgets, okay? I have my District 3 budget, and then I have my black budget. So I got 2 budget every time I go to Councilmember Dan Strauss every year. I have a District 3 budget and then a black budget. And I think it's important to understand, and we've heard about it, where we started and then where we are right now. So just hold with me. So in 1865, black people were 13% of the population. 90% of us lived in the South. We had no legal protections. We had 1.5% of the wealth in this country in 1865. Fast forward to 2026, we're still 13% of the population. 58% of us live in the South.
The key to this, which is key, we only own 4% of the overall net worth in this country. That is 160 years later, that's between 6 to 8 generations later. 4% of the overall wealth in this country. In Seattle, our black population is 7%. Our households, 28% of black households own their homes. That is down from 1970, we were 50%. We had the highest black home ownership rate in the country. The median household income for a black family is $55,000 in this progressive city. And it's been like that for 10 years, and it's the thing that I'm always talking about. And I know that White King always tells me about this, the average household income compared to white families, which is $130,000. Black businesses account for 1% of the businesses in the city of Seattle, and they generate 1% of the overall wealth. Due to redlining, White King talked about it, $5 billion has been extracted from black community. 32% of black households are food insecure compared to 7% of our white counterparts. Blacks accounts for 19% of the homeless population, but we're 7% of the overall population. And last but not least, 28% of black male students are at a 28% of black male students are at a third grade reading level. So at third grade, only 28% can read. So where are we going? You've seen the stats, where are we going? There's 5 points of progress that we've identified for black community to make sure that we are progressing. Number 1 is through housing. Number 2 is education and the arts. You cannot have, thank you, you cannot have education without the arts. Third is health. Health and wellness, that's your food insecurity. That is, thank you. Health, as I get older, health is wealth. You know, we get out of bed, you put that salve on, you try to get going. The fourth one is economic mobility. We talk a lot about equity. I always say equity spelled M-O-N-E-Y. That's kind of like my thing. But you've been spelling it wrong, as I always say. But that is going to be key for our community as we see our average household income. And last but not least, the workforce trades. We are going to, dirty hands, clean money for our kids. We're going to have to make sure that our kids know how to be plumbers, how to be electricians, how to work on the yard. That's going to be our way to the pathway. So where are we going? I heard about housing in Detroit. What up, doe? Okay, yay, what up? I got some Detroit friends. What up, doe? And then also heard from the State of Africatown about, hey, this is what we want. We want money, we want funding, we want investment for our community. The year before this, I came here and you said, why can't you said, we are not gonna grant our way out of this, okay? I heard that. Those were things that I took from that. And so what we did last year, we had a Black Budget Day. And let me just tell you how this played in. We called it, I told some people, I called them, I said, hey, I need y'all to come down to the budget to testify. Well, why are we coming down? Well, it's our budget. And so then I said, we're gonna brand it Black Budget Day. And so now everybody was like, girl, I'm going to Black Budget Day. And we are down there. And we had over 70 black folks. Some of y'all were in here in this room. Miss Preston was in here. We had 70 black community members where we advocated for funding and dollars for our community so our council members could see that we can speak for ourselves, number one. Number two, that we can speak for ourselves. And we can speak for, no. And then also that black community is alive and well in Seattle, right? Which is important that they see us, that they hear us, that we just don't show up for certain things, that we are down here advocating for us. There are political parties in Seattle, and I believe that if black people come together, we can be the most powerful political party in the city of Seattle. We have to coalesce our power. And so we set up, so this is what we did this year, and then we're gonna be able to advocate for next year. And I definitely wanna sit down with Africatown and the team to talk about how this incorporates your vision, how this, for the community, how it incorporates what we're trying to push as well. So on that, we have a Central District and South End Fund, which was a preservation fund, which is for, and this is in the amendment, African descendants of the enslaved, lineage through chattel slavery. Okay, that is written in that amendment. So that was the first thing. And it might not seem like a lot, but it is a separate fund where we can start funding more money for that, okay? So the second thing that we did is we set up a Black Advisory Council that is coming to Seattle, which our Indigenous brothers and sisters have an advisory council that talks about different policies for the city. That's gonna get set up to Department of Neighborhoods. And we also funded the expansion for the reparations study. And this is why this is important. The reparations study was just for housing. We expanded that study because there were things that were extracted out of our community that have nexus to housing. Just because you took housing away from people doesn't mean it just affected housing. It affected their job, it affected their education, it affected their schooling, economic mobility. So all we talk about is studies, studies, studies. So we're getting a report, Y King, okay? We're getting a report to talk about how we can expand those investments for community. And I see that my time is up. And so I'll be sitting down with Africatown and community to find out how we're gonna fund and continue to invest in the visions of Africatown and holistically for our community as well. So thank you all.
There you go. All right, King County Executive Garmai Zahalai.
Jazzy, Jazzy. Can everybody say hi, Jazzy, on 3? 1, 2, 3. Hi, Jazzy. Oh, she's tired. All right, while she's making her way over here, Jazzy, you want to come sit right here on this table, at this chair? Okay, she's fine. All right, I'll let her be. Good afternoon, everybody. How you feeling today? So good to see you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joy Hollingsworth, for those amazing remarks. I don't know if many of you know this, but Joy is my family. So my younger sister and her younger brother are together, and somewhere out there in the world, there is a political super baby that is a literal Hollingsworth Zahalai baby exists, and his name is Ivy, just so you guys know, yeah. I'm Garmai Zahalai. This is my baby Jazzy. She is almost 2 years old, and she just became a new big sister. I used to be the council member for this district, and now I'm your new King County executive. That means I lead our regional government of King County, and it is such an honor for me to serve in this role. I care about this community so much. I know that Y King associates me with the South End, but did you know that I graduated from Bailey Gatzer Elementary right down the hill from here? And I lived in Yesler Terrace, and it is true that once I became a teenager, I did betray the CD by graduating from the best high school in Seattle. Do we have any Quakers in the building? Yeah, let's go Quakers. 05, that's right. Oh yeah, Kendra, that's right. We just came back from our was it our 20-year high school reunion, Kendra? That's right. Some of you have heard my personal story before, how my family came to Seattle when I was 3 years old. We lived in public housing, we lived in poverty, we experienced homelessness. But something that we don't talk about enough is that despite all of those hardships we experienced, it is undeniable that I was still born on third base. I was born on third base because the United States that my family immigrated to is not the United States that generations of Black Americans had to endure. I never had to attend legally segregated schools. I never was excluded from purchasing a home because of my race. My family was never sold into chattel slavery or brutalized by Jim Crow laws. Those freedoms that my family and I enjoyed when we moved to King County in 1990 as Black immigrants were purchased through the blood, the sweat, and the tears, and the lives of Black Americans who've been in the United States for generations. My ability to become the leader of our state's largest local government was purchased through the struggle, the innovation, and the brilliance of many elders in this room. Thank you. And this is my opportunity to shout out Elder Don Mason, right? And guess what? My daughter, who is here, will benefit from the work of generations of the current leadership, people like Y. King and Joy and Erica Evans, who's in the building. That's who she's going to benefit from. It is a relay, sir. But the legacy of all of those unimaginable harms that I described before live on today. That legacy casts a shadow on our nation and in particular continues to harm the descendants of those who were enslaved and systematically removed from opportunity. In 2026, I believe that being an effective policymaker requires us to grapple with and address those harms through a lens of that racial justice. For those of you who witnessed my inauguration, you might have heard me talk about the top 4 priorities of my new administration, what I call the 4 Bs for a better future. Number 1, breaking the cycle. There is a cycle affecting of our communities of addiction and homelessness and trauma and crime and incarceration. We want to break that cycle. Number 2, building for affordability. We have to build the infrastructure and the economy that is needed for our growing population. Number 3, putting boots on the ground, making sure that our government is out there in the community, building relationships and showing people tangible outcomes for their tax dollars. And number 4, advancing a better government, more equitable, more transparent, more efficient, in all of the ways that better serve our communities. But we have to be clear, to be successful in advancing any of those 4 Bs, those 4 top priorities, it requires us to address the ongoing harms of anti-Black structural racism. We cannot break the cycle without addressing the fact that 40% of the population experiencing those overlapping harms is Black. Out of a 7% population in King County, 40%, we are represented in that population, 40%. We cannot build for affordability without addressing the fact that Black wealth is marching towards zero and there exist extreme income disparities by race with Black communities at the bottom. Putting boots on the ground requires us to prioritize connection between government and the communities who have been most removed from access and opportunity. And creating a better government, the final B, means we do that with an eye towards sharpening our problem-solving skills for the communities who are most overrepresented in the issues that we are trying to solve for. It feels as though our society was beginning to recognize how important this lens is during the peak of the 2020 racial justice movements, but I have heard from many communities in recent years that we have begun backsliding. This is what Y. King was talking about. That the issues facing and the priority level given to our foundational African American communities have taken a back seat. I understand where that feeling comes from, and my administration will absolutely not contribute to that backsliding. Here are just some of the actions that we will take to tackle the issues facing King County's multi-generational Black community, to repair harms and expand opportunity. Yes, baby, here, you can have anything you want. Okay, you want a pen too. Number 1, first of all, my team will be reflective of this community. A whopping 50% of my department directors are Black and African American. I will bet my bottom dollar that you cannot find another government of this size, 18,000 employees, that has more Black leadership at the highest levels than King County. Many of them are here today. Please stand up to our King County leadership. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. From the head of our public defenders, Matt Sanders, to my chief legal officer, Chris Sanders, to my deputy communications director, Carissa Braxton, to the head of our Department of Local Services, Leon over there. So again, we will reflect this community at the highest levels of leadership. And any of our other hardworking King County staff, raise your hand because we want to know who you are. Please raise your hands high, introduce yourselves. Thank you. To our community members who are here, please meet them, form those connections. We know that progress moves at the speed of trust, and trust requires relationship building. So please meet each other and exchange contact information with my team members. Number 2, our administration will work with African American communities across the entire region. Of course, we will work with the Seattle mayor and the president of the Seattle City Council to invest in and support historic Seattle neighborhoods like the Central District and South Seattle. And it is also true that my jurisdiction as King County Executive spans the entire 39-city and unincorporated area region of King County, which gives us an incredible opportunity to reach and build with our African American neighbors across the region, especially those who have been displaced out of Seattle city limits. In just the past couple weeks, I have visited and shared partnership with communities in Kent, in Federal Way, in Skyway, in White Center, in Renton, and much more. We have to have a regional outlook for the betterment of our future. Third, everybody's keeping an eye on her, right? You got like 200 aunties and uncles watching you, Jazzy. Third, we will establish the first ever African American Advisory Council representative of the full region. It is wonderful that King County has commissions and advisory boards for immigrants and refugees, for women, for people with disabilities, for LGBTQIA+ communities, and much more, as it should. And it is also a glaring omission to not have an advisory board for African Americans who are foundational to this nation and also face the brunt of many of the issues that we need to solve for as a society. This advisory council will make recommendations to policymakers and represent your community voices. Third, we will establish a policy lead position in my executive office that is specifically focused on issues affecting the descendants of U.S. chattel slavery living right here in King County. This is not a future plan. This is a position that has already been budgeted for in my executive office. For the first time in history of this government, to my knowledge, we will have an African American Affairs policy lead directly in the office of the executive to help us liaise with the African American communities of this region, guide local policies, and ensure that we are applying reparative strategies to our budgets, to our levies, to our policies, and to our actions. Fourth, we will apply that reparative racial justice lens to each of the 4 Bs that I described before: breaking the cycle, building for affordability, boots on the ground, and better government. We know that each of those issues, if we're going to advance them effectively, if we're going to problem solve effectively, we need that reparative lens across all of our policies, and I know that the Advisory Council and the policy position in my office will help lead us there. So just to recap, we will make sure that our leadership and staffing is reflective of the community. We will build alongside African American communities across the 39 cities and unincorporated areas in King County. We will launch the first ever King County African American Advisory Commission, and we will hire an African American policy lead in the executive office, and we will apply a reparative and racial justice lens to each of the 4 Bs, from breaking the cycle to building for affordability. These are just a few of my key priorities on a long list of actions that the 18,000 hardworking people that make up King County will embark on in collaboration with our community members right here in this room. I also want to make sure to share with you that we plan to collaborate across governments. We know that the scale of the reparation that is needed is something that requires collaboration across city, across county, across state, and across federal government, and we are ready to do that, to be your lobbying arm to other levels of government so we can truly meet the scale of the needs that are here. So our King County teams will be ready for that collaboration and will join you in those lobbying efforts anytime we are called on. Thank you for the opportunity to join you, and we look forward to working alongside you to keep the state of Africatown strong. We have nothing but possibility in front of us. Thank you.
Y'all, let's give it up one more time for King County Executive Garmaiza Halai. Up next, let's welcome the mayor of the city of Seattle, Katie Wilson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay. It is an honor to be here with all of you today. Thank you to YK and Garrett and Africatown for your leadership, your dedication, and your hard work to strengthen Seattle's Black communities and our whole city. I'm very glad to be here today and glad that I've been here to listen, and that's what I and my staff are here to do. But I also know that listening is not worth much without accountability and action, and I'm here for that too. And I want to start by recognizing some members of my team who are here today. My Deputy Mayor, Brian Surratt. And from our Community Relations team, Dominique Stevens and Artie Nazrati. And Abdi Jama, who's just joined our team in the mayor's office. And I also want to recognize that Dwayne Chappelle is here, our Director of Department of Early Learning and Education. And I also want to acknowledge that I am not the only elected official here in the room, in addition to my co-speakers, who is here to listen and who is committed to action. I see Councilmember Alexis Mercedes Rink in the audience. And I see Port Commissioner Toshiko Hasegawa. I see our city attorney, Erica Evans. And I guess it's my turn to recognize a former elected official, Don Mason. I wasn't going to forget that. And now I'm afraid that I might have forgotten someone. So are there any other elected officials or former elected officials in the room? Okay, thank God. Great. So I'm here as your new mayor. And as your mayor, I carry with me our city's complicated legacy, including the history of the Central District, and the fact that more than 70% of the Black population in this neighborhood has been pushed out. And we know that what we see today in the Central District is a policy decision, or rather a series of policy decisions, past and present, as we have heard today, at all levels of government. It's the product of a racist system that brought redlining and disinvestment, and then the extraction of wealth. A system that has brought housing crisis after housing crisis and displaced thousands of people, all in the name of exclusion and profit and power. And the fact that these were decisions is a stain on our city's history and our nation's history. But I believe that it is also a reason for hope and for commitment, because it means that we can and we must make different policy decisions for the future. And I know that that's possible because the Central District, of course, also carries an extraordinary legacy of resistance and community and leadership, a tradition that is carried forward today by so many of you in this room who are part of Africatown. The vision of Africatown includes so much that is part of my vision too. Expanded access to shelter and services, affordable housing, care for families and elders, and collective stewardship and control of resources to benefit the community. As you probably know, the city has a constrained budget right now, but we also have extraordinary resources and extraordinary influence on how neighborhoods are shaped, who can afford to live here, and who feels like they belong. In my State of the City address a couple weeks ago, right here in this very space, I announced an affordability agenda for our city with 4 pillars: affordable housing, affordable childcare, affordable access to food, and an affordable city to build and run a small business. And I know that Seattle's Black families, particularly here in the Central District, are feeling all those aspects of the affordability crisis acutely. And that to make a difference, a one-size-fits-all approach is not good enough. That the city and my administration will need to pay attention to and address the specific needs of the Black community in partnership with community leaders, Black-led organizations like Africatown, and Black-owned businesses, and in partnership with our council president, Joy Hollingsworth, and the entire city council. And my commitment to all of you is that we will do that. We need to accelerate shelter. We need to build more housing that people can actually afford. And actually, I want to say a little bit more about housing because we know that housing is so core to this city actually being a home. So, building wealth, building opportunities for affordable homeownership. There's a lot of parts to that. And I came in partway through our keynote and heard you talking about taxes, property taxes. And we know that we have property tax discounts for elders, for lower income elders. And we also know that only about 1/3 of people who qualify for those discounts actually are getting them or know about them. And that means that there's a lot of Black elders in our community that are paying more than they should be paying in property taxes. And so one of the things that we can do is we can do more outreach and we can resource organizations to do more outreach and we can make sure that people are getting what they deserve. Creating opportunities for affordable homeownership also means keeping homeowners in their homes by making sure that they have assistance with repairs and upgrades, making sure that people are protected from predatory home buyers, and making sure that people have the ability to develop their own property if they want to add backyard cottages. And I know that the city's been doing some work on all of these things already, and it is my intention to support and expand that work, because we cannot keep having people be displaced from this neighborhood. And I'll also say, obviously part of this too is creating new opportunities for homeownership, right? Because we want to build that wealth. We want to make sure that even though the Black community has been excluded from building intergenerational wealth for so long, that is not the future, right? And so that means down payment assistance. And that also means creating opportunities for homeownership where a home does not cost $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million. And I also want to say, as someone who's a renter, that renters deserve stability too. And we don't have to choose. It's not homeownership or stability for renters. We need to do both. And we also need to recognize that Black people in our community and in our city, because of that history of exclusion from wealth building, are disproportionately renters, and they deserve that stability. One thing that my office is working on right now, we put out a survey for renters. We had over 9,000 responses, trying to learn some of the struggles that people are facing, not just around the cost of rent, but around hidden junk fees that you don't see when you sign that lease. You see the sticker price of your rent, but you don't see all the hidden fees that you're going to be paying month after month. Well, I intend to introduce legislation, and I know that some of my council colleagues here too are interested in doing the same, to regulate and ban those fees so that people know what they are going to be paying when they sign a lease for an apartment. And I also want to say something about social housing. So Seattle's new social housing developer is just getting its first infusion of revenue, $115 million from a tax that was approved by voters last year. Now, this is a progressive tax. This is a tax on corporations that are paying people in our city over $1 million a year. And this is significant because when we talk about taxes, when we talk about property taxes, when we talk about sales taxes, regressive taxes, that can sound very academic, but what that means is that Black people, because of that history of exclusion from wealth, because of our income disparities, that means that those taxes disproportionately affect the Black community. And so it is significant that we are going to be funding social housing with a progressive tax that does not disproportionately impact the Black community, and I'm proud of that. But the other thing to say about social housing, this is permanently affordable, publicly owned housing, that if social housing does not work for Black people, it does not work. And so that means working, and my administration is going to be working with our social housing developer as it starts to acquire and develop property in our city, and we are going to make sure that the Black community is part of that project. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled programming here. Okay, so we need to build housing that people can actually afford. We need to make this a great place to build a business, to raise a family, and to pursue your dreams. And we need to make sure that when we say, this is your city, that it rings true to everyone who calls our city home. And we need to do this all in a way that reduces displacement and begins to repair some of the harm that our city has done to Black people. And yes, that means reparations. My office is with you in that work, and I know that thanks to the efforts of Council President Hollingsworth, the city last year set aside those funds to establish a Black Advisory Council housed at the Department of Neighborhoods to help us guide that work. And we will be working closely with that department and with our council president and with all of you here to find the right people to serve on that body who can advise the city on the programs and the investments that we should focus on to begin to turn the tide. So with that, thank you again for inviting me to participate here today, for all of your leadership and your hard work. I am looking forward to working alongside you, alongside Africatown, to build stability, resilience, and belonging for Black and African American communities in the Central District and throughout our city. Thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for Mayor Katie Wilson. All right, now, I want to thank all of our elected officials for being here and for their response. As we close out, I get to welcome to the stage a beloved community elder, my auntie, and board chair for ACLT, Jacqueline Armstrong.
I want to say Grand Rising, Joy, but I know we've moved into the afternoon hour, but it feels like a grand day to me. But good afternoon, community. I appreciate your introduction, TraeAnna, and yes, I'm affectionately known as Auntie. However, more importantly, I am the ACLT board chair. I take that so seriously because I am like White King, who was a son of the CD, Joy, who is a daughter of the CD. I, too, am a daughter of the CD. My parents came here in 1947 from Louisiana. My father had a third-grade education. They purchased a house in the CD where my husband and I are fortunate enough to still reside there today. And so, Professor, I have to say that I was deeply moved by your message. I understand, and I'm reading your book, We Want What's Ours. I cannot put that book down, so thank you for speaking truth to power. Let me just begin by saying thank you. Thank you to White King for leading with courage and clarity. Job well done. Keep the faith. Thank you to our speakers, performers, elders, youth, elected officials, and partners. And I will say again, good morning, and to the Elder of Distinction, Don Mason, so I'm going to follow suit. I also recognize that Elder Robert Stevens, you were not here earlier, my brother, but for your tireless work in the community, it's always so important to be recognized. And of course, the elected officials, I have to say, Joy, you will always be Miss Dorothy's granddaughter. So there it is, there it is. Thank you to the staff and volunteers who made this event possible. Thank you to ACLT Board of Directors who stands with me in this work. Thank you to Savior Knowledge Emeritus, and also Margot Jones, Madam Chair Emeritus. Showing up is a choice. That's right, showing up is a choice. And today, you chose to show up for all of us and the generations to come. For that, I say thank you. As a multi-generational Central District resident, this work is personal for me. I have seen what this neighborhood was, I have witnessed what was taken, and today, I see what is possible. Gentrification, may I say, is traumatic, and I am a survivor of gentrification. I understand when you live through that, what that feels like. I am moved not just by the history we've acknowledged, but by the system we are building. Because Africatown is not simply preserving a memory of the past, we are an essential part of this neighborhood and this city and region's future. We are securing land. And securing land is how we ensure Black families remain and continue to keep coming back for many generations to come. I just have to pause here because for those of you that are no longer in the CD, we left the lights on. So if you're traveling down the CD, that's right, we left the lights on, y'all. We up in this thing. So if you're traveling down 23rd and you just happen to be visiting, on the corner of 23rd and Union, Vivian and Jasmine, they left the lights on over there in Art and Award. You can go across the street. Damon and Christy, they left the lights on at Communion. You can go up the street. Wally's, he left the lights on. So we are still here. We are leaving the lights on. Welcome home. Welcome back. And so again, securing land is how we ensure Black families remain and continue to come back for many generations to come. As our purpose states, ACLT secures permanent land ownership in Seattle's Central District so Black families can remain in the neighborhood and city they help to build and prevent future displacement for generations to come. We have all witnessed the harm engineered that resulted in systemic displacement of Black families. The repair must be systemic driven too. That is why Africatown operates a four-part system: land acquisition and stewardship, permanently affordable housing and ownership pathways, cultural preservation, Black business development. At Africatown, we believe something simple and powerful. Black ownership is a cornerstone of a stable, thriving city. When Black families have secure land, stable housing, cultural anchors, and economic infrastructure, the entire city benefits. This is not, as White King said, a Black issue. This is a Seattle stability issue. We are not starting from zero. We have hundreds of permanently affordable units developed or are underway. Youth pathways through the William Gross Center, one of my favorite places to be. I love to be around young people. Sparked a renaissance of Black businesses, cultural institutions anchored, land already under community stewardship. The question is not whether this model works. The question is whether and how fast we can scale it. The Africatown 2050 vision is measurable and specific. 2050, wow, I hope I'll still be here. I'm 73, y'all, so I'm shooting for it. I'm shooting for it. 2050, 2050. Hold me in your prayer because I'm living for this, White King. 2050. Come on, y'all. We aim to create more than 2,500 permanently affordable homes, to significantly increase Black home ownership, to anchor stable Black business corridors, to secure official African district designation. Africatown district designation. We have a record of success with transforming this place. And transformation requires capital. That's where you all come in. And I'm grateful to see our elected officials, philanthropic donors, and community partners and members fill this room today. Now, y'all don't run out. This is not like church where I'm gonna lock all the doors. But hold up. So over the next 3 years, Africatown seeks $250 million in combined public and private investment. And this year, as White King mentioned in his presentation, we urgently need $2.5 million. This is a bridge investment. It will stabilize operations, strengthen leadership capacity, activate Africatown Plaza, support families facing housing instability, offset delayed reimbursements on existing grants. So as the chair of the board, I want to be clear. This is a committed, purpose-driven organization. This is a mission-anchored board. This is a leadership team operating under non-negotiables. We ain't playing with this, y'all. Community must secure and steward land. Structural forces must be repaired. Long-term stability requires permanent affordability and access to opportunity. To our city and county leadership, treat Africatown as core civic infrastructure to a thriving Seattle, King County, Washington State, and beyond, because we are. That's right, y'all, because we are. To philanthropy, the scale of harm requires multiple-year, bold commitments that match the scale of repair. And to everyone in this room, we have a QR code on the screen. Please scan it, or you can come up to me, White King, or any member of our team afterwards if you have the opportunity to collaborate with us. Today is the moment to move from alignment to investment. If this work resonates with your values, invest. If you can stretch, stretch. If you can introduce, introduce. If you can host, host, and if you can advocate, advocate. Support a system that brings Black families home because funders always have a choice. Support the system that pushes families out, or invest in the system that brings them back. The Central District was once more than 70% Black. Today, it is less than 15%. I know this well. The trajectory is not inevitable, it is reversible. And the speed of that reversible depends on what we do next. It is not if. It is not even a how. It is a win. And that win is shaped by our collective courage. Let's build permanence. Let's secure land. Let's anchor ownership. Let's protect culture. Let's invest at the scale this moment demands. And before I bring TraeAnna up, I want to say that I am a product of the 1984 Rainbow Coalition. And so, in the words of our late Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, repeat after me and say it like you mean it. Power to the people. Keep hope alive. And in the words of K.Y. King Garrett, title, deeds, and keys. Ashe.
Now y'all see why she's a board chair. Come on, let's give it up one more time for Jacqueline Armstrong.